Good afternoon, Suidlanders. How are you? We trust that you're very well. I'm sorry that the camera is a bit skewed, but let's just leave it as it is. I don't have the remote control camera anymore. I have to get up and tilt it and then come this side and look, all by myself. It's a bit difficult, and I don't think it's that bad that it's intolerable. I want to talk to you about something that occurred a month ago, but a month ago I wasn't able to cover it. I can't remember exactly why, but it kind of it slipped away and then sort of relegated to the background. But in fact, it is very, very important. And that is the Julius Malema's speech, or the inflammatory portion of his speech at the Western Cape 3rd Provincial People's Socialist Revolutionary Congress. I'm exaggerating, but only slightly. It is something like that. It's the Western Cape Provincial People's something. I beg your pardon. Let's go through it quickly. I think you'll hear it well enough. This was, as I say, on the 15th of October, and today is the 15th of November, Tuesday the 15th of November. So, as best I can make out, the first part of what he's saying is, I'm here, or I'm in the Western Cape, and I've been coming here frequently for a court case because no white man may beat me up. In other words, he's saying that he's involved in some other court case over a physical altercation. Okay, so he says, no white man can beat me, whatever. So I'm implicitly, so it is that I'm fighting this court case, and I'm coming here frequently. I'm in this area frequently. He says, and you must not be afraid to kill, because the revolution at some point demands killing. It demands killing. In other words, there can be no proper revolution. The revolution for itself does not expect this or require this, expect it or require. It demands it. There must be killing. Killing is a revolutionary act. Okay, so there were then some tweets about it, and the one, for instance, reads quite well. Malema is calling for a revolution and the killing of white people. That's clearly implicit. That's not an extraordinary imputation. To impute is when you in certain environments, it's a very common thing. His name is Arthur, therefore he must be an agent. This sort of strange way of thinking. And this is, you're not imputing very much here. Malema, as near as damn it, said what this one tweet person said. And I want to remind you of something about which I've spoken on a number of occasions in the past. Something that happened to me about 6 years ago. That is very, 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 very enlightening on this topic and this theme. And the story goes like this. I believe it was Thursday, the 6th of November 2016, Julius Malema appeared at the Newcastle Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal on charges of what I don't remember. And afterwards he addressed his supporters saying, among other things, I beg your pardon, I am not calling for the killing of all whites yet. And a few days later, I was chatting to a colleague of mine who was then somebody who I've described as, from time to time, as the Prince Regent of a certain South African tribe. Not a very big one, but important, certainly in its own eyes, because it is the one tribe in South Africa that can demonstrate its provenance, its lineage, its history, far better and far further back than any other tribe, going all the way back to Tanzania. And so it's a tribe, as I say, at least in its own eyes, of some prestige and cachet. I say Prince Regent because I got the impression from time to time that as the heir to the throne, they sort of regard themselves as more than a tribe, perhaps a kingdom. I don't want to get into that. I know it's a kind of a sensitive subject. But the king or the chief, his father, may or may not, I might have picked up the wrong end of the stick, but I got the impression that his father was perhaps somewhat incapacitated or debilitated, because he would tell me how he would have to go home the following weekend, or he'd just come from being at home, sorting out this matter, addressing that matter, sitting down with such and such a council of elders, talking to such and such uncles, debating such and such an issue. And I may be wrong, but he was, I think, close to being a Prince Regent. That is to say, a prince whose father is not yet dead, but who rules at least to some extent in his father's stead, because the father is not fully able to do so, to perform all of the functions due to illness or what have you. He was also a member, an elected member of provincial government, National Council of Provinces, something along those lines. At some point, very senior as well, as I recall, and he fancied himself as and when I say fancied himself, I'm not in a position to judge objectively. I'm hopelessly unqualified. So then that's why I say, regarding the tribe, certainly in their own eyes, they think they're important. Not because I'm disparaging them, but because I'm not really in a position to say, oh, very important, trace themselves back to 10,000 and, the year 1031, 1031 AD. Or likewise, I don't really know the true extent of his brilliance in the field of his culture, but he, I think, was somewhat of esteemed as something of a leading light in understanding his culture, his people, traditional African culture, and so on. And I know that he wrote for big leading newspapers from time to time, and his articles were regarded as quite scholarly. And I'm perfectly happy to accept that. He was a person with whom I had no problem whatsoever. Never, not once. So may he be the best in everything that he is supposed to be good. And he said to me, we had cause to talk about this Julius Malema thing. I don't know how it came up, but he was quite assertive. I remember we were speaking about it vaguely or in passing, and then he was quite, hectoring. Hectoring means to lay down the law with somebody. Again, not once a problem with this guy. So I don't mean that he was wrongful in his hectoring, but he was somehow very sure of himself and insistent to me as a white boy. Now you hear me, this is the way it is. Yeah, okay, all right. I'm the great expert. All right. Tell me. Kind of thing. Not explicitly, but in my mind. Yeah, okay. He said, Simon, you must understand one thing. Oh? In English idiom, you can say something like, I want to kill you, and not mean it. Even a wife can say to her husband, I want to kill you right now, and not mean it. In African idiom, you cannot do that. That doesn't exist in African idiom. If a wife loses her temper or I'll give you another example. The other day, I myself saw, just recently, last week, a woman insult her husband. They're residents of Van der Kloof, but I didn't know that they were husband and wife. I hardly know them. I greet the husband from time to time. I only learned his name that evening because I asked somebody. I said, yes. I said, that's so-and-so. So I've never known his name, but we've always greeted. And the woman, I don't know, I might have greeted her once or twice, but not that I can specifically. They're not people I know. Although the husband seems like a hang of a nice guy. So this woman, I won't go into detail, insulted her husband quite brazenly and blatantly in public. And I leapt to the conclusion, because she appeared so sincere, that they were not connected to one another. That I don't know. But here's this woman is so angry with this man. There's no ways it's her husband. Anyway, it turned out that she was actually just, once I knew what the score was, that they were husband and wife, and I saw them 5 minutes later again, and they seemed to have quite a charming little connection. But she just decided in that moment that she was going to facetiously insult her husband. Now, you can't do that in African culture. That doesn't exist. And he was making the point that idiomatically, you can't say certain things and expect across cultures for them to mean the same things. And he went on to say, when we hear Julius Malema say, I'm not calling for the killing of all whites yet, we hear him say, I am going to, and I have the authority to, and I expect you to prepare for me to say that, to make that call. He was deadly serious and earnest with me, and I think I must, before God, always appreciate that. Always appreciate that very instructive lesson. And I put it to you, ladies and gentlemen, that Julius Malema, I'm sorry that I've heard far clearer audio, clips of that statement by Julius Malema, or those words in that speech at the Western Cape 3rd Annual Provincial Congress of the EFF. But this one that I brought up was not very good at all. But I put it to you that there are those people who will take that very seriously, and there are those people who will fail to understand its meaning. I put it to you that even if there is not a revolution that demands killing in this country today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, this week, next month, or even next year, that seeds are being sown that have far more meaning than the average inhabitant of the liberal northern suburbs of Johannesburg can appreciate. And I put it to you, Suidlanders, without encouraging recklessness, without encouraging foolhardiness, without encouraging vaingloriousness, that you should bear these things in mind, because it is you and I who, when the prophecies of Umsina van Rensburg are manifest, are going to have to be able to stand firm on both feet on the bedrock of our knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, knowing what situation we're in, not bewildered and perplexed and unsure. Golly gee, is this the revolution? But it's supposed to be the new South Africa. Nelson Mandela told us, and Dame Helen Suzman, she said, and Frederick van Zyl Slabbert. And Cyril Ramaphosa has such a nice smile. No. Some of us must be the repositories of sound knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Never forget. Remember those words as words which my erstwhile friend, my erstwhile colleague, the Prince Regent of one of South Africa's most important tribes, would say, that has real and profound meaning. That every word was meant, and that time must eventually come. Not because I say so, but because they say so. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we look forward to speaking again soon. Goodbye, and God bless you.